Arc Raiders is an undeniable mega hit that has taken the world of gaming by storm. While other games, even fairly anticipated ones, have struggled to maintain consistency, Arc Raiders marches along with a rock-solid and shockingly high number of routine players. However, despite the fact that Arc Raiders is popping off, the game isn't without its problems, and that's what I want to talk about today. And by the way, take everything I say with a grain of salt, because while some things we can all agree are problems, like cheaters, and more on them later, other things are more subjective. For example, people howling at the moon that the lack of a PvE only mode is a catastrophic issue, and that if you don't agree with that opinion, you're part of the problem. Captain of the fucking debate team over here, I'm sure. Anyway, why don't we take a minute to talk about the flaws in what I feel is an otherwise tremendous game. And while we could talk about small problems, like whatever the hell is going on with the latest update where you click the crafting button and the game just resets whatever you're trying to make, I think we'd be better off talking about large problems. And on that note, why don't we start with cheaters? And I'm fully aware that this is not a problem unique to Arc Raiders. Every popular shooter game out there deals with cheaters. They are the absolute goddamn worst. And by the way, statistically speaking, I know that at least one person or more who ends up watching today's video might be a cheater. And to you, I say that your body length Miku pillow is probably very disappointed in you. Cheating in Arc Raiders comes in many forms. Some are more subtle, while others are more blatant, like players not only getting out of the map, but being able to straight up shoot other people through walls. That one in particular is incredibly obnoxious because there's no real way of being able to fight back, and you're just at the complete mercy of the cheater. But you also have people who, unless you were flat out able to watch their screen, you might not be aware that they were actually cheating. Like this turbo virgin over here who thought it would be a good idea to make a YouTube video of him using hacks and stream sniping Ninja. Now, while I do agree that watching Ninja crash out is 100% hilarious.
First of all, I want you to know this is a good time to look in the mirror and realize that you're not a Spider-Man one trick, and you better learn another fucking champion, dude, because you threw this game and you're fucking reported.
Oh, I'm Spider-Man. I'm Peter Parker.
What a fucking idiot, dude.
But yeah, it's still pretty effed up that this is something that players can just do so easily. Although I will admit, reading some of the comments on that YouTube video did manage to restore my faith in humanity. Getting deeper into the subtle side of things, there were also commands you could F with on PC that allowed you to mess around with and tank your graphic settings in order to be able to see enemy players through trees, bushes, and other objects you normally can't see through, which, in my opinion, is extra embarrassing that some players are so bad at the game, they feel they have to do that at all. You want to impress people? Don't tank your settings like a bitch. Pump them up like a man with the sponsor of today's video, Starforge. I currently use a Starforge PC for YouTube and streaming, and this thing is a beast. I love it to death. Every single Starforge PC is built by hand in the US of A and goes through a rigorous quality assurance and testing process. They are packed safely and securely before shipping, and every PC comes with a 2-year parts and labor warranty. True story, I tried building a PC years ago, and while I did succeed, it no joke took 5 years off of my life, and I vowed I would leave it to the professionals from then on. And I'm so happy that I did. Take it from me, please. Starforge is amazing, and they will not let you down. I truly can't recommend them enough, so if you're looking for a new PC for gaming, streaming, whatever, check out my link down in the pinned comment. And again, eternal thanks to Starforge. All right, now regarding cheating, we got good news and frustrating news. The good news is that Embark Studios just the other day implemented an emergency hotfix to kill the quote new console, aka graphics exploit. On top of that, they made a post in the official Arc Raiders Discord to address the current situation regarding standard cheaters. Raiders, we've seen the discussion around the topic of cheaters in Arc Raiders. Please know that we are taking the issue very seriously and are listening to and acting on your feedback. Over the next few weeks, we are implementing significant changes to our rule set and deploying new detection mechanisms to identify and remove cheaters. This includes updating our anti-cheat systems for improved detection and bans, as well as applying client-side fixes specifically addressing the out-of-map glitch. Furthermore, we are introducing tools for streamers to help mitigate stream sniping. So yeah, finally getting the ball rolling on dealing with cheaters is great news. I can't tell you lately how many times I've gotten the in-game message that I was getting a refund on gear because I had been killed by a cheater. And even though I'm pretty sure I've only been stream sniped once, follow me on Twitch by the way, if you think you can keep up with with my crazy community, I have to imagine that for the top 0.0001% of streamers like random white guy number 1, random white guy number 2, guy with really bad takes on everything, and the silly peanut guy, it probably gets really annoying really quickly when you're constantly stream sniped day in and day out. So yay for announcing upcoming changes for all of those things, even the ones that don't affect me personally as much. But despite the good news, players are still a bit frustrated, partly because it's taken Embark Studios this long to take significant action against cheating in their mega hit game, and we were kind of hoping it would have happened way earlier, and also because we don't have an exact timetable of when these changes are going to drop in, just quote, over the next few weeks. That's pretty damn open-ended, and I'm really hoping that we're not still dealing with basement-dwelling mouth breathers shooting through walls in late February. Moving on, why don't we talk about weapon balance and the overall meta? Ever since the launch of Arc Raiders, it has been pretty damn clear that there are balance issues and problems, both with weapons and items overperforming and weapons and items underperforming. Why don't we start with the latter? The Anvil Splitter is a legendary item that turns your anvil hand cannon into a handheld shotgun. Instead of firing one bullet every time you pull the trigger, the splitter now makes you fire 4 weaker pellets that all come out at once. And unless you have perfect aim and land all 4 pellets when shooting another raider, the Anvil Splitter is actually a significant downgrade for the Anvil overall. You now have to use it to fight 100% up close, and again, if you miss even 1 pellet, you're outputting way less damage and basically nerfing yourself. Why is a legendary item that is so rare to find this bad, being outclassed by even a green tier weapon? Furthermore, we have the Patina, an epic tier weapon that really doesn't perform anywhere near as well as the other weapons in epic tier. Recently, Embark Studios attempted to buff the Patina, which players were excited about, until we found out the details of the buff. The Patina got an improved magazine size from 20 to 22, a slightly faster reload time, and improved weapon durability. And while those buffs are appreciated, I guess, for the PvE crowd, they don't really do much on the PvP side of things, which is where players felt the gun needed more help in the first place. At the end of the day, the vast majority of hardcore PvPers would rather hunt other raiders with either the Stitcher or the Kettle, 2 gray tier weapons. And on that note, why don't we talk about the Stitcher and the Kettle? Since the launch of Arc Raiders, these 2 weapons have been unnaturally good, despite being in literally the lowest weapon tier in the game. Even with minimal upgrading and weapon attachments, the Stitcher and the Kettle become elite raider killing weapons that are not hard to use at all. And while it's kinda nice that not every low tier weapon in the game isn't unusable trash, having 2 of them be on the same level of lethality as epic tier gear is pretty goddamn bananas. Recently, it's been extra bananas because of another exploit that has gotten completely out of control: macroing. PC players with too much free time and not enough father figures have taken it upon themselves to set up macros that allow them to fully mag dump the Kettle in the blink of an eye, offering 0 counterplay to the player that they're shooting. And on the subject of little counterplay, why don't we talk about trigger nades? Good lord, trigger nades. In my opinion, Arc Raiders PvP is at its best when players are moving around very fast, sliding, dodging, and weaving in and out of cover while accurately landing shots on another player. Trigger nades bypass all of that. The idea of a grenade that you can throw and then remotely detonate is awesome, but currently they have laughably high damage, an incredible blast radius, and you can detonate them almost immediately after throwing them, making them not only superior to heavy fuse grenades in almost every conceivable way, but also capable of completely demolishing entire teams with little to no effort. And here's where we get into another one of those good news, bad news type situations. The good news is that in early January, one of the Embark community managers mentioned on Discord that the team was finally looking to balance the Stitcher, the Kettle, and the trigger nade. Fast forward to January 9th, and Games Radar published an interview with Arc Raiders design lead Virgil Watkins, who gave additional insight on what will be coming in a balance patch scheduled for January 13th. Quote, "I asked how the Kettle is being changed. As expected, Embark is lowering its fire rate cap. The gun technically has a cap right now, but it's so high that even if you approach the limit, you'll be insta-killing players in a way that feels like an error." And on the topic of trigger nades, Embark wants to preserve the precise, timed, and powerful explosions that define these little monsters while still reining in their one-size-fits-all potency, which has at times turned PvP into a very lethal game of dodgeball because who needs guns? The intent right now is the damage fall-off curve is changing. You have to be a lot more exact to get the full damage. The intent with them is you land them on the target and that's where you're doing doing your max damage, and then a triggering time adjustment so you can't have it leave your hand and just blow up immediately. Again, all good things. Unfortunately though, the bad news is, aside from the trigger nade and the kettle fire rate cap, nothing else specifically is mentioned in the interview about things changing on January 13th. Nothing about high tier items with a disappointing performance like the anvil splitter, and nothing about low tier weapons like the Stitcher performing way above their pay grade. As to whether or not these will be addressed on the 13th is anyone's guess. Another thing that Embark hasn't mentioned looking into is a player complaint I hear about all the time, and that is joining into matches ridiculously late. Now, for the record, I understand why this is a thing on paper. If players weren't able to join matches in progress, then after just a few minutes between fellow raiders dying or just extracting back to Speranza, matches would start to feel very empty very fast. Also, allowing players to join into matches in progress means quicker matchmaking and not having to wait as long in the queue. That being said, in a game where the vast majority of players now know where all the best looting spots are, it feels really bad when you load into a match in progress, because it's extremely likely that by the time you get to any of the good looting areas, they have all been 100% picked clean. Granted, you always have the ability to get loot in the form of murdering your fellow raider and taking whatever they might be carrying. However, not everybody out there wants to play that way, and there's no guarantee that the guy you just turned into Swiss cheese was carrying anything good to begin with. On top of that, if you start murdering fellow raiders, you're going to start getting put into more bloodthirsty lobbies, as Arc Raiders has recently confirmed that how you behave in-game will have an effect on your matchmaking. In short, if you're a peaceful player, your lobbies will eventually become more peaceful, and if you're a full-on murder hobo, then you're going to get put into more PvP-heavy lobbies, which is fine if you actually want to get thrown into the bloodthirsty PvP lobbies, but for the folks out there who want to be peaceful looters, joining a match late is just a huge waste of time. 9 times out of 10, that player is just going to head right to the nearest extraction point and get the hell out of there to try again. I'm not entirely sure what the solution is there, but joining matches that are nearly halfway over has been a big conversation topic among Arc players since the game came out, and I'm hoping it's something that Embark can address in the future. The final thing to mention, community events, quests, and expeditions. Again, this will definitely fall more under the subjective umbrella, but a lot of players feel that community events, quests, and expeditions need a bit more spicing up. For example, the community event where we were supposed to collectively unlock the Stella Montis map for the very first time. I'd heard we were going to come together as players somehow and complete a group challenge to unlock the map, which sounded great. But then the day came and it was basically a game of, hey, we need everyone to donate enough materials and then the map will unlock. Which, I gotta be honest, was kind of a boring letdown. Expeditions are kind of the same way. I really like the idea of an intense season-long challenge that ends in you being able to prestige, but it's just dumping a lot of resources into a big imaginary hole. No specific challenges, quest completions, or anything else, just grind until you can sacrifice X resources and expedition complete. Quests might also be in need of a shakeup. In a recent Reddit post I found, user Dex921 pretty much takes the words right out of my mouth. Most of the quests are go to a place and click E on something and could have been far more engaging if they were challenge or combat based. I think that my point can be summed up with a good quest is one you would enjoy doing without a reward. The good news is I truly think Embark Studios has the power to shake up community events, quests, and expeditions going into 2026. They've already started flexing their creative muscles and the result has been kind of fun. For example, even though a lot of players memed the hell out of it, the recent trial where the game required you to throw snowballs at racketeers, I thought that was both unique and hilarious. There was also the secret loot room they added to Buried City that you could only unlock by activating buttons that were hidden all over the map and hitting them in a particular order. And even though I temporarily lost my mind trying to unlock that room for the first time because random jabronis would keep hitting buttons, it felt really damn awesome the first time I finally completed it and managed to get into the room. But to reiterate, it looks like Embark is starting to get fun and pretty creative with their in-game mission ideas, and I really hope that continues going into 2026. At the end of the day, while Arc Raiders does have its fair share of problems, it's still a phenomenal game with a diehard community who has shown me how fun a well-made extraction shooter can really be. Fingers crossed, but I can only imagine that Arc Raiders will continue to shine even brighter this year. If you have any particular beef with problems in Arc Raiders that I did not mention in today's video, tell me what they are down in the comment section or just swing by the Twitch channel and tell me there. Thanks very much for watching. Peace!